Well, what's going on, everybody, and welcome back to the Hour of Power, the most influential hour of your Philadelphia sports week. Yeah, welcome to the Talking Philly Sports with Matty B program here on the Edge of Philly Sports with your boy Matty B on the call on this beautiful Monday night, January. Yeah, it's been a minute, September 23rd, 2024, and I am honored and privileged, as always, to be here with you tonight because we got a lot to talk about, man. We got some things in the news, some things that are brewing, some things that we got to get off our collective chests, and obviously, I am that guy. I am the guy that has an open mind to all sides of an issue, and I'll be here to present my opinion. I'll be here to listen to yours, and I'll disagree with everybody but me. That's how I roll. But no, there's a lot going on, right? We got what's in the news? What's been happening lately? So we got a football team here that is fresh off of a 15-12 win over the Nolans, not New Orleans, the Nolans Saints yesterday down there in the Big Sleazy. In a game where a lot of people thought that they weren't going to win, to include me. In a game that really, if you look at it, kind of boiled down, is a character win. It's one of those types of wins that galvanize a team. It's one of those types of wins that could change and turn around a season. So why are we not reacting like that? And why are we still criticizing this football team for not being, I guess, what a lot of people expected them to be? And we'll get into where I come out on all that. We got a baseball team that, went up to Queens with an opportunity to come out of Queens, locking down a playoff berth, locking down the NL East, and firmly making a statement for their number one overall seeding in the NL. Well, they went up to Queens and lost 3 out of 4 to the Mets. And is there fire where there's smoke with this Philadelphia Philly team? Who are they and what are they? And how frustrating and maddening can this thing be, or can this thing get as the Phillies find themselves in the playoffs, but the NL East is still in question with 6 games remaining? We'll talk about that. And we'll talk about the hockey team because the hockey team is back. It's right. Hockey has returned. The Flyers are well into their preseason. I believe game number 2 is tonight, or game 3. I know they played in Washington yesterday. They're in Montreal tonight. We're about 3 weeks, 2.5 or so away from the start of the regular season. Where do you come out on the Philadelphia Flyers? There's a lot to be not concerned about, but a lot to be interested about with this hockey team. But then again, there's some old issues with this team that have not been resolved and won't be resolved this year. So where do you come out on the Flyers and year 2 of the rebuild? And how much more patient are we going to be with this team? And what are the expectations in terms of what is a successful season? So we'll talk a little bit of the Flyers. We'll talk about anything else that you want to talk about because it is your dime. I'm here just to listen. And we'll get all those things aired out. But I want to remind everybody before we do, this program, as well as all the other fine programming here on the Edge of Philly Sports. Oh, yeah, we'll also talk about some of the fine other program here on this network, too. I got a bone to pick with some people. But everything here on the Edge of Philly Sports is brought to you by the good folks over at the Cherry Injury Law Group, the Dolan's Bar people, Sherry's Tickets, and Philly Sports Trips. Oh, yeah, and our newest sponsor, I almost forgot, Big Hal's Excuse Emporium. Serving the greater Philadelphia and their sports excuse needs since 2024. Make sure you go down and check out Big Al at Big Al's Excuse Emporium. No excuse is too large or too small for Big Al's and his staff down there at the Excuse Emporium. So make sure you head on down there and check them out. Tell them Matty B sent you. So yeah. All right, let's kind of tie this thing together. Let's get it kicked off with our day in Philadelphia sports history. We go back to the ripe year of 1983. Steve Carlton, as you can see pictured right there over my left-hand shoulder, my right-hand shoulder. The big picture of Steve Carlton I have there on my wall. Won his 300th game of his career against the St. Louis Cardinals on this day in 1983. Of course, the Cardinals is the team that traded Carlton to the Phillies in 72. Phillies would go on or Steve Carlton will go on to be considered, in my opinion, the greatest left-hander of all time. Obviously, the greatest left-hander in this organization's history. He would go on to win 241 games for the Phillies, be a major catalyst in the 1980 World Championship, 1983 pennant-winning team, and so many other really strong Phillies teams. They were anchored by Steve Carlton, old lefty, of course, a Baseball Hall of Fame inductee as well. So on this day in 1983, Steve Carlton won his 300th career game as he beat the Cardinals 6-2 in a game, enacting some revenge, I guess, on the team that traded him. And there you go. There's your day in Philadelphia sports history. And that was brought to you by Cherry Injury Law Group. That's right. For workman's compensation, motor vehicle accident, personal injury, and criminal law, give Dave and his associates a call at 610-565-0300 or visit him on the World Wide Web at www.cherryinjurylaw.com. Tell Dave you need his help, and he will provide it for you. So, Dave Cherry, there you go. Steve chiming in already, not wasting any time, says, there's no question in my mind that Statland University should get a way higher subsidy grant than Sirianni Junior High School. I would imagine Steve is tying in our first topic of the night, and that is your Philadelphia Eagles. I debated on who to lead off with tonight. Was it the Phillies? Was it the Eagles? Was it the Flyers? Let's go with the Eagles, I guess. 15-12 winners yesterday over the Saints in a very boring game, frustrating game, a game that encapsulated what the Philadelphia Eagles have been over the past calendar year and highlighted some of their problems, highlighted some of their strengths, highlighted some of their weaknesses, highlighted their coaching issues, and highlighted just about everything that you would want to know about this team. And Steve wants to know, of course, Nick Sirianni under heat again for some questionable play calls in that game yesterday. Going forward on fourth downs, the tush push that turned into a sweep to the left on a fourth down call. And then kind of very weirdly in the post game or press conference, the post game, taking credit for the game winning, wasn't the credit for was it the Goddard pass there at the end of the game that set up the kind of the go ahead there. Just a weird game that really, listen, if you're taking solace in the fact that, first of all, Sirianni, I agree. First of all, I'm not a big Statland guy either, but one constant with this team has been the offensive line over the years, and we would be a lesser team without him and what he has been able to do in developing offensive linemen. I will give you that. But Jeff Stoutland is not the problem with this football team. And if we didn't have Jeff Stoutland, I don't necessarily think it would add too much more of a problem with this football team. The problem with this team goes way deeper than Stoutland. But I agree. Sirianni, in a situation or in a time with this team that you would think he's trying to galvanize himself to the city, because I mean, maybe he's the only one who doesn't think his job's in jeopardy, but he continuously does things to, kind of make our heads shake. And I heard a lot of people say that yesterday kind of was a game where people wanted him fired by halftime, wanted him gone by the third quarter, and then at the end of the game, still said, you know what, win, lose, or draw, I still want Sirianni fired. And it's interesting to me because I agree. I agree 100%. I don't think he should have been brought back. But as far as Steve's comment here, Steve, yeah, obviously, if they're going to want to sink their money somewhere, it would potentially be in Statland University versus the Nick Sirianni Junior High School. I agree 100%. So point taken there, Steve. Pat says, my man, Matty B. Pat, how are you today? Matt, the Phils dropped a series to the Brewers and the Mets. I'm not going to be excited if they get thumped by the Cubs. Well, Pat, we'll let's table the Phillies here. I mean, we could. Here's the thing, Pat. Again, and I know you hear this all the time, man. We love you, but Pat, dude, I mean, I don't know where you're coming at most of the time, man. I don't know. One day you're in, one day you're out, one day you're in. It's hard for me to get a beat on you, man. But your point is well taken, and we're going to address the Phillies here a little bit later. But the Phillies are perplexing. They're very perplexing. They're going to start a 3-game set right now against the Cubs. Their magic number is 2, by the way, in the National League East. It's not 1, folks. If you don't know how to do the formula, I can send it to you. But the Phillies' magic number to clinch the NL East is 2. And the Mets are not playing tonight. So the Phillies the best they can do tonight is reduce their magic number to 1. Because the Mets are not playing. But tonight, goes a long way. getting back in the win column against the recently eliminated Chicago Cubs. But, yeah, going forward into the playoffs, and we'll get into that here momentarily, Pat. But, yeah, I agree with you. But so yesterday, let's kind of go over some of the highlights of yesterday's game, right? Jalen Hurts continues to be, in my opinion, not this franchise quarterback that people want him to be. And once again, I think we invested the money, or I shouldn't say we, because I did nothing to do with the investment of the money. Howie Roseman invested the money, I think, in the wrong guy. Jalen Hurts gets paid $2.6 million a game under his new contract. $2.6 million a game. So far, through 3 games this season, he hasn't, in my opinion, earned $2.6 million game day check. Yesterday, 2 more turnovers. Now I believe the numbers are up to what? 20. He's responsible or accounted for 21 turnovers in the last 25 games. Jalen Hurts has turned the ball over 21 times in the last 25 games. Holy crap, that's a lot of turnovers. Another forced pass into coverage in the end zone to kill a drive. And then the fumble as he waited too long to make a decision with the football, which seems to be his number one plague. He's still holding on to the ball too long, not making his reads fast enough, and hesitating on his decisions. Have we not heard this before? But you know what? On the positive side of Jalen Hurts yesterday, he kept the team in things. The game was kind of a wonky game back and forth. Hurts would finish for 29 for 38 on the day, 311 yards. He passed for over 300 yards. Most of them at Dallas Goedert, averaging about 8.2 yards a throw. He did get picked off once, and he was sacked 4 times for 23 yards. So Jalen Hurts continues to be an enigma and just a really confusing situation. I think Jalen Hurts is a very good quarterback. I just don't think he's the franchise quarterback that people want him to be. I heard a buffoon the other day say that Jalen Hurts was going to win the MVP. The hell you say? Jalen Hurts is not going to win the MVP. Not this year. Yeah, no, I don't see where you see that at all. But Jalen Hurts is not money. He's stealing money, but he's not money. The defense yesterday. You know what? Here's a round of applause for a much maligned defensive core. They answered the bell, especially the front 4. Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis were consistently creating havoc on the Saint offensive line. For the most part, they kept Alvin Kamara under control, and they continuously stifled Derek Carr all day. Derek Carr is not a good quarterback. He's not. But when given proper time and space, anybody's a good quarterback, and the Eagles did not allow that. They did their job defensively against Derek Carr. So I'm not going to, get off the back of the Eagle defense. Now, are the problems fixed with this defense? Or is this the product that we're going to see going forward? No, there's still some issues with the defense, right? There's still going to be an issue until they prove it game after game if they can get consistent pressure against quarterbacks and bottle up and contain running games. But at least for one day, they actually were able to do it. Secondary was a little off. I mean, there were some big plays made around the field by Derek Carr, but again, for the most part, I got to give the defense a break today. I do, because they were not the reason why the team barely won. They were not. And obviously the best game of the season so far. Dallas Goedert, man, with the comeback game of the season. Goddard yesterday, after pretty much falling off the map for the first 2 weeks, 10 receptions for 170 yards, 17 yards an average, and that 61-yarder that really kind of put the end of that, put the game pretty much in bed for the team. I got to give Dallas Goedert a big round of applause too. And where the hell you been, man? And welcome back, because he proved yesterday that he's a competent tight end. Now again, is it going to be a question of consistency with him? Are the Eagles going to consistently draw up plays for him? Is he going to be a part of this offensive attack consistently going forward? Time will tell on that. But I gotta give Dallas Goedert a big round of applause. It was really good for him to get involved, and it was obviously really, really good for Jalen Hurts to get him involved. Nick Sirianni, obviously we're going to talk about the play calling going forward again on 4th down in situations where maybe he shouldn't have. And then that frustrating, I'm taking credit for calling a play during the game. I mean, what is this, high school? What's he trying to do? Justify his title here? I mean, who cares, dude? Who cares to call the damn play, man? The play was called, and they won the game. But Nick Sirianni, man, how much more? How much more are we going to take from Nick Sirianni? And we can also say how much more we're going to take from Howie Roseman. We had a block punt in this game, which when was the last time that's happened against the Eagles? That was interesting to see. As special teams let the team down a little bit. They had a block punt. They had a missed field goal. Not an encouraging day from the special teams. The first touchdown in this game wasn't scored until 13 minutes almost left in the fourth quarter, as it was a defensive struggle back and forth. So it was that type of game. And, at the end of the day, though, the Eagles, as I mentioned at the top, come up with a character win. They come up with a win that could galvanize an organization, a type of win that a lot of teams would look at as this is the way back. This is our gut check. This is the game that tells people who we are. Why are we not looking at it like that? And I'm going to tell you why we're not looking at it like that. Because this has been the type of game we've become accustomed to in this town for the last calendar year. Right? Am I wrong? There hasn't been a strong performance by this football team, a foot on the throat performance by this football team since the Buffalo game last year or the Kansas City game. There hasn't been one of those. It's been, before those games, it was this wonkiness, this 10-1 wonky, like win's a win. Then after that, it was those two games that they actually played really well. Then after that, they fell apart. What has changed between 2023 and 2024? I want to know. We got some different personnel. We got some different play callers. But what has changed about this football team in the last year? And what gives people cause to think that the same product that you're looking at right now, which is the same product from last year, is going to do anything differently than they did last year, which was fall apart at the end? So, yeah, a lot of teams would look at this as a character win. And a lot of the homers out there are going to try to spin you that way and be like, oh, this is the game where they gut checked themselves and they pulled themselves back from the abyss. Good times are coming. Don't believe them, man. Listen, they got lucky a little bit on that Dallas Goedert play. Wasn't two Saint defenders running into each other trying to cut across the field and pick up Goedert? But listen, it happened, right? I don't see much. I give them kudos for winning the game. I do. I give them kudos for fighting their way back. Nobody thought they were going to win. I didn't think they were going to win. They fought their way back and they won. I give them kudos for that. But now we're dealing with injuries. Well, how many players did we lose yesterday? Like 5? You lost Lane Johnson with a concussion. Becton went out. Britton Colby broke his shoulder. He's gone for the next 8 weeks, so essentially pretty much the rest of the season. Devontae Smith with the concussion on that really, really, really cheap shot. Now we're going to be dealing with injuries, and the depth of this team that wasn't that deep to begin with is now going to be tested heading into week 4. A.J. Brown is now, he's questionable with that hamstring. So you take the positives from it, and I'm taking the positives. It was a great win. But there still has not been anything shown to me that makes me think this team is any different than one that limped off the field in Tampa last year. I'm not sold. I'm not sold. And now your head coach is now making questionable decisions game after game. People went through a range of emotions with Nick Sirianni yesterday. It was that kind of game. As I said, a lot of people wanted him fired by halftime. No points in the first half for this football team. None. The offense was supposed to be the juggernaut. The offense was supposed to be was the thing that was going to hold this team together. It was the defense that everybody was suspect about. The offense wasn't working at all. And people are going to blame A.J. Brown's absence yesterday for the offense not working. Well, now you got Lane Johnson potentially maybe not back next week with concussion. Becton, who knows? Britton Covey's gone. Now you're going to be dealing with more issues along that, and Devontae Smith potentially not back because of a concussion. Now you're going to be dealing with more issues along that offense. So I hope it wasn't because A.J. Brown wasn't there. I hope to think that other players would have stepped up, and it looked like some of them tried to. Saquon Barkley, again, continues to be everything that he's been advertised to be. But the offense, what was wrong with the offense yesterday? What was wrong with it? And again, I'll take the win, right? We'll take the win. But it doesn't change my opinion about this team, nor does it change my opinion about who's running this team and how far they're running it into the ground. If the Phillies win tonight, they win the NL East because they'll have 93 wins and the best by the Mets. What? And the best the Mets can do is 93, and the Phillies have a tiebreaker. Doesn't matter. If you do the little formula, right now the Phillies' magic number to clinch the NL East is 2. I get what you're saying. If they finish with a tie at the end of the season, the Phillies will win it. I understand what you're saying. But to outright win it, they need a win, a Mets loss, or Phillies win back-to-back games or 2 games. Let's not get into semantics, right? The bottom line is if they win tonight, they will not win the division outright. They won't. They won't. Not tonight. The Bucks look pretty rough against Denver. I think the Eagles roll into the bye. 3-1. Fire Sirianni, and most importantly, get healthy. Is firing Sirianni 3-1? Listen, that would be great. If the Eagles can get to the bye week 3-1, that's going to exceed my expectations. I had this team in the bye 2-2, right? And you're right. The NFL season has shown us once again, that nothing is sacred. I mean, another weird week. More bizarre play for some teams, and I'm not saying the Eagles can't. Remember, I had the Eagles winning next week. Initially, at the beginning of the season, I picked the Eagles to win that game. So, I don't think Tampa Bay is a juggernaut team. I don't think they're a powerhouse. They play in the weakest division in football, next to the AFC South. So, no, I mean, I believe you. They could be 3-1 heading into the bye week. Now, would that be a false narrative and false hope too? Because coming out of the bye, it's going to be a little rough. I mean, it'll make for a nice bye week for everyone around here. We wouldn't be maybe fired up as much. They're not going to fire Sirianni, not in the bye week, not with a week 5 bye week. They're not doing that. Jeff Lurie's never done it before. He's only done it once. I mean, how many times in season changes has he made? He made one that was Chip Kelly with 1 game left. So Nick Sirianni is your head coach. Win or lose probably until the end of the season, more than likely. So, but anyway, yeah, it would feel good. But let me ask you this: is it about style points at this point? Right? We keep saying a win is a win is a win. That doesn't work anymore around here, right? It sounds like a cop out. Does anybody else want to see a style win, a hard Eagles dominating win? Don't we need one of those? So going into the bye week 3-1 would be great. But if they win another game like this, where they don't play well, where Jalen Hurts continues to turn the football over, where he continues to hold the ball too long, Nick Sirianni continues to make questionable decisions with the play calling, or then taking credit for plays that maybe he's not calling. If there's all this wonky turmoil and drama, and they eke out a 10-11 win against the Buccaneers, do you feel better going into the bye week? Or do you need like a 48-7 drubbing of the Buccaneers to really start feeling good about this team again? I say you need a real statement win. Desperately need a statement win. Desperately need a statement win. And yeah, I mean, it's an interesting question because style points don't count for anything extra in the standings. They don't. A win is a win is a win. It is a true statement. But we've seen this here. We've said this here. Week after week, season after season, a win is a win is a win. Where did it get us last year? I think we need a style win. I think we need one of those emphasalavas wins where there's no doubt that the Eagles were the victor. Are the Eagles capable of doing that? We'll see. Banged up now, adding more injuries to the mix. We'll see how they roll in the Tampa next week. They say we can clinch. Who's they? They cannot clinch tonight. The Phillies cannot clinch tonight. Their magic number is 2. The Mets aren't playing tonight. So if the Mets were playing tonight and the Phillies won and the Mets lost, yes, they clinch. But the Mets are not playing tonight. If the Phillies win, it's 1. And then all they got to do is come out and win tomorrow. But the Mets are not playing tonight, so they cannot make up 2 games in one night. The Phillies' magic number to win the NL East is 2. That's what the formula says. If you do the math, you'll see it. Maybe I'm wrong. And maybe they're... No, I'm not wrong. I know I'm not wrong. It's not a clinching game tonight for the Phillies because the Mets are not playing. The Mets are off. If the Mets were playing and they lost, that's why the Phillies, if they would have beaten the Mets one time after Friday, they would have won Saturday or Sunday, they would have won the NL East because they would have made up 2 games against the Mets by beating them and the Mets losing. That's why they didn't win. They didn't clinch over the weekend. All they had to do was beat the Mets one more time since Friday. and they couldn't do it. They need the Mets to lose and the Phillies to win to make up 2 games in one night. Or the Phillies need to win their next 2 games. They win tonight, they win tomorrow, they're in. They won the East. But they need the Mets to lose. So there you have the Eagles. 2-1. All kinds of drama. All kinds of greatness with your quarterback. All kinds of greatness with a defense that was maligned. And Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, kudos to them. Now we got to see it week after week after week. And maybe we saw yesterday what this defense can do when properly motivated or when properly given. Maybe Vic Fangio was messing around with alignments in week 2. Maybe he's been messing around with alignments since the beginning of camp. And maybe this was the formula. Maybe he hit on something yesterday. Maybe we'll see more of that or a build off of that moving forward against Tampa. Maybe we will. The offense, again, what is the offense's biggest problems right now? Is it the quarterback? Is it the head coach, offensive coordinator? Who is holding the offense back? As I said, I heard a buffoon say the other day that Jalen Hurts is going to win the MVP. Not the way he's played in the first 3 weeks, he's not. Is there anybody out there who thinks Jalen Hurts has played MVP-like over the last 3 weeks? I'd like to know, because I would like to hear that. But this was definitely a question that we didn't have heading into this game. The season was the stability or the durability of your quarterback. Or maybe some people did have it. Some people did. But they were politely dismissed as being haters, Negadelphians, and all the above. As I said, I got the Eagles winning against Tampa. I think they win against Tampa, and they head into the bye. Well, I guess I had them at the bye 2-2, but they'll be 3-1 if they beat the Buccaneers next week, and I hope they do. The Buccaneers they don't scare me, man. They never did, man. Baker Mayfield, come on. But they got the Eagles formula. Todd Bowles knows how to beat the Eagles, and we'll see how that works itself out next week. But Eagles win. There's a lot more questions though than answers about this team. A galvanizing win, a character win. Kind of fell short for the Eagles, though, because people are not looking at it like that. The people are looking at it more of, or I'm looking at it more of, the same old with this team. The same shoddy performances, the up and down roller coaster, not playing a clean football game. And how much longer can we sustain that type of play and win a Super Bowl? We couldn't last year. What makes it different for this year? And that's my biggest takeaway so far this season is that it's hard for me. It is hard for me to even think or see that it's not 2024. I still think it's 2023. I'm still thinking I'm watching the longest football season ever as 2023 has now entered into the third quarter because I honestly don't see a difference from this team from a year ago. I don't. And if anybody else out there does, again, I'm open to hear your points. But Eagles do win, and they are now 2-1 on the season. And all is well, at least, all is not well. And, of course, we're going to argue and go back and forth about the Eagles all week. But don't forget, no one's going to go back and forth about Dolan's at 24 East Sellers Ave in Ridley Park for, what is that, a smash burger, French fries, ketchup. Is that like a queso sauce or what is that, mustard maybe? Wings, hot peppers, and some more of that yellow stuff. Head on down to Dolan's today at 24 East Sellers Ave. Tell PJ and the crew that Matty B and the OP sent you. Tell them I want the yellow stuff. And visit Dolan's Bar. But all right, let's transition now to the Phillies because this is definitely the other big story in town. Yesterday could have been a really, really bad day if the Phillies or if the Eagles didn't win because we watched a Phillies team after an outstanding bounce back win the other night against the Mets on Friday after getting boat raced on Thursday. They came back and they boat raced the Mets on Friday, but then that was it, man. They were unable to get any kind of other consistent play over the next 2 days. Wasted a really good, strong performance from Wheeler last night, and then Ranger Suarez continues to kind of tinker around with what he's got left in the tank. There were some encouraging signs from him Saturday. I will give him that, but I don't know. I still concerns about that. But the bottom line was the Phillies missed an opportunity to put it all to rest over the weekend against the Mets. And then you could have easily rested everybody or tried to rest everybody. And this team needs some rest without. And now they have to go into tonight still fighting for a divisional championship. And tonight they started a 3-game set against the Cubs. And as our guy Walter on the scene here reporting, the Phillies are up 4-0 in the game, and that's a good sign, man. So Kirk Cousins drives down the field in less than 90 seconds to beat the Eagles. Chiefs stopped him twice at the end of the game. Jalen is no Pat Mahomes. No, he's not. He's not. So the Phillies are going to head into the so I guess the biggest thing I have coming out of this weekend, do Phillies fans have a right to be angry with the Phillies? Do they have a right to be upset with the Phillies? And I'm really honestly, I need to know, because I've heard a couple different sides of this, and I want to know what you guys think. Do we are we jumping? Are we jumping to conclusions again? What do we got here in terms of how should we feel against the Phillies? So I got a buddy of mine that's backstage. He's going to come up and he's going to try to answer that question. So let me bring him out.
I'm going to guess the multitude of you people who have already commented in are either Phillies fans or Philadelphia sports fans of some sort. We appreciate you. But we gotta pump the brakes. Listen, what I would love to see tonight, what I would love to watch them at Citi Field dance around being the NL East champions, just like the Braves did to us last year. Absolutely. But to say they're the worst team in baseball, to say they're a 500 club, to say wrong, and wrong. Yes, they are streaky. I will not disagree with that. Wheeler pitched a hell of a game today. It is a shame they couldn't deliver him the victory. I say any pitcher gives you 2 or less runs. It is, and I don't care if it's your ace, the ace of aces, like the best pitchers in baseball, against a good squad, 2 or less runs, you should be able to get, this offense, you should be able to overcome that.
Oh, okay. So there's my magical guess. I want to thank Al Zafiri for stopping by and answering the question. Should the Phillies and Phillies fans be concerned about their team? And Al said, no, you should not. It's okay that they missed an opportunity to clinch on over the weekend, that everything is okay. And then he went as far as to say that that people who think the Phillies are not good, or now he didn't use the word not good. Well, I want to say the right thing. What was he trying to? He said, what did he say? He said, worst team in baseball. You're wrong. A 500 baseball club. You're wrong. You got to pump the brakes. Calm down, everybody. The sky is not falling. Al Zafiri of the Fighting's Final, by the way, made those comments to me. Or actually, he didn't make those comments to me. He made those comments last night on the Fighting's Final. And I have to give the opportunity now for the people to fire back on the propagandist, right? I have an opportunity now to be the voice of the people against the propagandist. And let's start with the 500 baseball comment. So Al is correct. They are not a 500 baseball team overall. But over the last 75 games of the season, which is a huge chunk of a season, that's almost a half season, they are 39-36. Okay? By definition, that's a 500 baseball club. That is a team with a 500 or above, slightly above 500 and not 600 winning percentage over the past 75 games. So yes, Al, the Phillies are a 500 baseball club over the last 75 games. They are. And that's the facts, right? I am going to give you the facts. I am not giving you the propaganda. I am not going to make you drink the Homer milk. I'm giving you the facts. The Phillies are a 500 baseball club over the last 75 games. And as Big Al himself has said on high from the mountaintops many times, baseball is a marathon. It is not a sprint. We have to play this thing out from start to finish. You're right, Al, we do. But the golden days of yore, The April and May and early June days where they were 51-28 are long gone, just like the days of Ranger Suarez and his sub-2 ERA. Those days are over, Al. It's time to be ushered into the present. And the present is the Phillies are 39-36 over the last 75 games. The very definition of a 500 baseball club. So, for the people's sake, Al, I am here to voice that to you, that you're wrong. You are wrong. They are a 500 club, and there's major concerns with this team. Inconsistency, Al hit it on the head. Also, the worst team in baseball, yeah, I agree. I don't know who would. I don't remember anybody saying they're the worst team in baseball. I don't think. I mean, that belongs to the Chicago White Sox, hands down. I don't think anyone's challenging them. But the Phillies are a 500 baseball team over the last 75 games. And it's not a small sample size. It's a half a friggin' season. So yes, they are a 500 club. So whoever, I don't know who said it. Steve, I don't know if it was you. I don't know which one of our valued Fighting's Final contributors chimed in to fight the power and said that statement. But you're right. Don't listen to the dictator, right? Don't listen to him. They are a 500 club over the last 75 games. 100%. All right? So, there's that. Okay? Then there's the pitching, right? They would go on and kind of go on another rant about pitching, about how the Phillies pitching is fine and how it's the hitting that's been the problem. And you know what? I'm kind of torn on that. It's not as simple as that for me. The pitching has been extremely erratic, and now you have injuries. Now you have Ranger Suarez. And I throw this number out all the time, and I'm going to throw it out again. Again, using numbers and stats, not made up fantasy, not the unicorn is going to traipse through the room type stuff. No, but facts, stuff that you can see with your own eyes. The Phillies pitching staff, through the first half of the season, that's 81 games, gave up 64 home runs as a staff. 64 home runs. Very doable number. I believe it was, about 0.7 home runs a game. So they were averaging less than a home run a game in the first half of the season as a staff. Through 75 games of the second half, 75, which is almost an entire half, the Philly pitching staff has given up 110 home runs. 110! For a percentage of around 1.4 a game. I know you can't hit a 0.4 home run, or nor can you hit a 0.7 home run, but you get my point. The numbers are way out of control. There's pitching problems with this team. Now, when you look at Zach Wheeler, a lockdown. He is your ace, number one, and you know what? We're a better team to have him because he is a dominant force. Dominant force. Aaron Nola, through the early rounds of the playoffs, has been very serviceable. He's had moments of actual sheer dominance in the past. But when we get deeper into the playoffs, it seems that Aaron Nola begins to kind of fade away. NLCS is sort of his stopping point. So if we have a first round bye into the second round, which would be the NLDS, does that perhaps save Nola maybe into the World Series, hopefully? That would be great. But after that, after you go Wheeler-Nola, what are you looking at, folks? You're looking at Ranger Suarez, who has not been able to figure out how to pitch since early June. Christopher Sanchez, who's been a great story, a very Ranger Suarez-esque type story this year. And then a potential return of Spencer Turnbull, who hasn't pitched since May. That is what you're looking at as far as pitching goes. What makes people very confident about that group? That's concerning. Wheeler and Nola can't go on 2 days rest. Someone else is going to have to pitch. Are we going to completely embarrass the game of baseball and go with a bullpen game in the playoffs? Are we going to show that we weren't prepared by going to bullpen games in the playoffs? So pitching is a major problem for this team. And no one's given it its proper due. It's a major problem going forward into the postseason. Major. And yes, fans should be concerned because the Phillies are a 500 club since Game 82. Hitting Hitting obviously has been the other problem. I get it. And I'm not necessarily wanting to rag on Al about it. Well, I do. But, you get my point is that you can't wish this stuff away by saying, oh, just be positive and everything will work out. No, there's problems here. There's problems with this team. And there's major concerns because it's all about winning a World Series. It's not about making it to the playoffs. It's not even about winning the division. It's about winning a World Series. And anything less than that for the payroll on this team, for the expectations set upon it by this fan base, are wrong. It's a failure. Epically. And you can wish it all away by, again, Big Al's House of Excuse Emporium, aisle 4, says, well, they had to go overseas this year. So they didn't get a chance to sleep in their own beds for a few days extra than they would normally. Or, they just had a bad day. That's aisle 7. Don't listen to it, man. There's real concerns, not this fake crap that the propagandists on this network want to peddle you. There's real concerns. Real concerns with this team. Let's talk about hitting. And this is a fun number for me to talk about. Again, RISP. Get it tattooed on my goddamn forehead. Runners in scoring position batting average. Through the first half, 81 games, they batted .277. That is like upper third of Major League Baseball for the first half of the season. So far, the second half, they're 158 for 612 with a .258 batting average. Close to a 20-point drop-off, or more than a 20-point drop-off, or you know what I mean. It's around 20 points-ish of a drop-off in RISP. More than 20 points. For the season, they're at .268. So if you're not batting .270, it's not even Major League worthy, man. They're batting .258 with runners in scoring position. That's terrible. And that's not negativity. That's not being able to situationally hit for whatever reason it was. We keep talking about this long ball phenomenon. They want to go up there and they want to swing for the fences and all that. Well, listen, if we've identified that as a fan base, as a problem with this team, why the hell hasn't the coaching staff? And if they're not listening to the coaches, what's being done about it? Now, at Big Al's Excuse Emporium, what's being done is they're opening up a blue light special. Remember the old blue light specials at Kmart? It's a blue light special in aisle 15 about it's okay. It is what it is. Matter of fact, Big Al is going to come back and he's got this to say to you guys because I couldn't believe this too. Here we go. Let me bring it up, man. I need to be more tech savvy with this stuff. Here's Al again from last night.
So I'm not stalking the Emporium. It is not the way it is. It's what it is. They shouldn't have lost the series against the Mets. At best, they should have split. It is not. I'm going to tell you right now, that is not acceptable. It is not acceptable. They should be the NL East champions and just looking to go get that top spot right now in the NL. But it didn't happen that way. But to sit here and say they're the worst team in baseball and sit there and say they're horrible and terrible. No, I'm not going to sit here. I'm going to say they're flawed. But I think every team has injuries and flaws to deal with, to go through, and especially this time of the season. It's just who can overcome them and not let them become problems. I'm not going to sit here because I'll tell you right now, if they go in against, say, a division, the NLDS, and they're sitting there and they're on fire, we're not going to even talk about this game. It is what it is.
There you go, folks. Out of the mouth of Big Al, the analyst of the year. It is what it is, right? It is what it is. It's okay. Would I've liked them to win? I would have, but you know what? Woohoo! We're going to be done. I'm concerned with their flaw, but so is everybody else. What are we doing here, man? There's flaws with this team. I don't care what the other flaws are with the other teams. Never did. That doesn't mean nothing to me. Stop it, man. Just say it. Say that the Phillies are lacking in certain areas. You know what it is? They're hanging on to the magic, the October magic, the fairy dust that's going to come sprinkling down from the 300 level at Citizen Bank Park. It's going to cover this team in red pixie dust and carry us to a World Series championship. That doesn't work. You go out, you hit the ball, you catch the ball, and you pitch the ball. Three things the Phillies have not done well through 75 games of the second half. I'm not saying they're not going to win a World Series. I'm not saying that. I'm not out. I'm not. I'm in. But I'm not going down this magical road that everything's okay. And that was a guy that works for the Fighting Spinal. It is what it is. That's the excuse. They're fraud. Woo-hoo. It's okay. Not a team that's being paid this way. It's not okay. It's not okay that every single night we cannot seem to get the entire lineup on the right page over the last 156 games. That's not okay. Just to sit here and say that, oh, we just have to be patient and just let it happen. No, we're running out of time. So, listen. You can take whatever side of the coin you want. I'm on, I guess, my own side, right? There's massive issues with this team. And yes, they're going to the playoffs, rightfully so. They're riding their coattails of an amazing first half of the season. An amazing, where everything worked out. They did all the things that they're not doing right now. And they deserve to be in the playoffs. But now, based off of the start that they had, that 51-28 start, that kind of got them to the playoffs. Now we're stuck apparently in this 500-like level that we're playing at, and we can't seem to win the division. You tell me who's wrong or right on this. I'm just saying, man. I don't like people placating to you, the fans. Oh, it is what it is. You're wrong. It seems not a 500 team. Yeah, they are. 39-36 is a little bit above a 500 winning percentage. By definition, they're a 500 team. That's their winning percentage over the last 75 games. That's 75 games, not 5, not 7, 75. They're 39-36. A little bit above 500. They're in the 500 winning percentage. So yes, they are a 500 team. Star Wars, hey, what's up, man? Nola's doing okay. I haven't watched any of the games. So this rant is all based on what happened over the weekend. I'm not watching any. I have not seen not 1 second of the game. So forgive me. Hi, Matty Hunt. There's 2 Monday night. Yes, there is 2 Monday night games. And that, so Barbara, you're shit canning the Phillies and heading right to Monday Night Football. It's amazing. That tells you something too. Phillies are 1 and done. Phil, man, welcome to the. Wow, Phil, what the hell are you doing here, man? Isn't it past your bedtime? Phillies are 1 and done in the playoffs. That's a concern, Phil. It's a major concern, especially now that the Phillies are on their way to a top seed or a top 2 seed potentially, right? I'm kind of am liking this little fall that they're on, honestly, because this might be the motivating factor heading into the playoffs. If they fall to 3, they lose out the division. They don't get the bye. There's no time to sit around lamenting about what happened, or there's no time to sit around and not get any colder than they usually get, and they have to go right into a fight for your life type of situation. I think this team would do better than that. I really do, and we've seen it over the past couple seasons. They've seemed to play better in that arena. Now we haven't seen them in the bye, or haven't seen them in the top 2. I get that, but I'm liking it better if they're not. Because that's another concern of mine. And that's something we're going to talk about if they do finish in the top 2, is the fact that this team sitting for 5 days or however long they're going to sit, how are they going to react to that? One side says that, they need the rest. But they could have gotten that rest this week if they would have just handled their business against the Mets. But you feel it's a major concern, man. It's a major concern. 39-36 is not 520, not 500. Get your facts straight. Well, what do you, I just said it's a 500 winning percentage in the 500s. Phillies like to give up a lot of homers. Dodgers like to hit a lot of them. Going to be tough to beat them. Phillies love to give up a lot of homers, Walter, especially here in the second half. 110 in 75 games. But Al will tell you not to worry about that. That's what they are. That's what they is. They is what they is. They Popeye. All right. They give up a lot of homers, man. I can't explain it. It's just the way it is. That's some analytical, deep ass stuff right there, man. It is what they is. I got to write that down. Too many dumb ball players on one team and a one dumb manager. Gary, you bring up a great point, because if they don't win the World Series, if they fail, And again, it's all about winning the World Series, right? Now, Al will tell you, and please don't get this wrong. I love Al. I'm not picking on him. But Al will tell you, rightfully so, that if they don't win the World Series, changes got to be made somewhere on this team. Specifically, probably the manager. He's always the easiest one to fire, right? You can't fire the team. So Rob Thompson would most doubtly be out, right? I think Dave Dombrowski should be wondering and kind of sweating a little bit about his job if they don't win the World Series either. But let's talk about this team. Heading forward into 2025, we are on the final years of two key players' contracts in 2025. Schwarber and JT Realmuto will be free agents at the end of next season. So in about a year from now, they'll be free agents. What do you do with the team? Do you start wondering, can this team ever win together? Do you start looking at potentially moving some people around? Because the contracts are now going to start to come up. Because again, starting at the end of 2025, players are going to start becoming free agents. And the core is going to be broken up at some point. There's some help down in the minors, but there's not this kind of help. There's not bona fide major league talent right now in the minors, of course. We don't know that yet because they're not haven't made it to the majors. So what do you start doing in this offseason? You roll the dice one more time for 2024 and say, you know what? We're all in. Let's go. Or do you look at some of these expiring contracts, i.e. JT, i.e. Kyle Schwarber, and you potentially look to maybe try to move one or if not both? I mean, I don't know. Are you potentially looking to re-sign any of them? I don't think you have to. I don't think you're going to re-sign neither one of them. But the contract situation is going to be a problem after next season. Do you just let it roll for next year and then worry about 2025 and beyond after that? It's going to be questions that this team is going to have to start answering sooner rather than later. Your whole show has been picking on Al. Absolutely. No, it hasn't. I've been picking on the Eagles too. Al's he's so easy. But what do you do? But heading into the playoffs, listen, I mean, there's a lot of baseball left to be played. October is a magical time of the year, right? And Al will be out there with his red pixie dust, throwing it all over Citizen Bank Park to hope to conjure up the juju to get this team off to victory. But, there are major concerns because, as, again, I've said this before, other people have said this before, that, we talked about it a lot over the weekend. The Mets, for example, they're a team that is red hot. Nobody wants to see them in the playoffs. They're scorching hot. Well, they weren't that way back in April and May. They were terrible April and May, right? But they've changed. They've adapted. They've overcome. They've evolved. Whatever. They've become a different team. Well, it works in the opposite way too, right? Because the Phillies are not anything like they were back in April and May, but they have not evolved or adapted. They've changed, but they've gotten worse. So it does go both ways. And that's why we always talk about baseball being a marathon, not a sprint. And that's why some of the arguments about, and the homers are still on about the April and May stuff. They're still talking about 51 and 28 to start the season. They realize, but they don't want to admit to the fact that this is a different team. That team that started the season is not even here anymore. This is a whole other different type of team that has gone 39 and 36 since game 82 of the season. And that's part of the problem, too, the blinders of certain members of the fan base and the media. They don't want to admit that there's a problem with this team. But I'll admit there's a problem. Am I saying they're not going to win it? No. Am I saying they're not a bona fide contender? No, I'm not saying that. They are. They have the ability to win it. They got the talent to win it. But we have yet to see the talent on display all at the same time. So I just wanted to come on and validate everybody that tunes into this network that has an opposing opinion other than the dictators and the propagandists that sit behind these microphones. Because your opinion, and I'm not going to use the Phil thing about mattering, but your opinion is everything, right? It doesn't matter. It's everything. That's what these shows are about. They're about the fans. Don't listen to the propagandists up here. Don't let them bully you into thinking a certain way. Think your own way. Be your own person. And don't let them bully you. And tell them I said so. And come here. This is a place of salvation. This is a place of hospice. This is a place where you can be free to be who you are. with no judgment. None. Because I'm a people person. So I agree with everything you say. Well, I appreciate that, Gary. See, that's what I'm talking about, man. See? Another fan. I've converted another one. There you go. Hallelujah. But no, so again, I have no clue what's going on with the Phillies game right now. Walter reported they're up 4-0, and I hope they win because then they can get that magic number down to 1 and then clinch hopefully tomorrow. Don't forget tonight, immediately following the game, Sal, I believe, has you on the Fightins Final. I'll be back on the final on Wednesday. And then me and Al will be actually doing the Fightins Final together on Sunday to finish out the regular season, as we'll provide a little bit of more of a playoff look ahead than a season in review. We're not really going to get into much of the season. We probably won't even talk about the game that just happened because it's going to be meaningless. Hopefully it's meaningless, but we're going to preview the playoffs. So I cannot wait to talk with Al on Sunday on the Fightins Final. And then going forward into the playoffs, the Fightins Final will be partners. There'll be 2 people hosting every show. So that should be fun. And I can't wait for all that to happen. K1 says I'm getting warm. Good, K. See? I've touched another human being. That's what I was put here to do. Walter reporting in says now 5-0. See, there you go. Let's go Phillies. All right. Beating up on the Cubs, who were eliminated from playoff contention yesterday. If we're going to get all happy about that, right? We're going to get all warm inside about the fact that the Phillies are beating up on the team that got eliminated from the playoffs yesterday. We're not going to talk about what's been going on lately with some of the contenders. But again, that's a conversation for about a week from now, and then we'll have that. But there you have it. There's my rant about the Phillies, and I guess allegedly picking on Big Al, which I'm not. He knows I'm not picking on him. But I am going to tell you to pick on Sherry's Tickets. If you're looking for great tickets great prices in sports, concerts, or theater tickets, look no further than Sherry's Tickets at www.sherrystickets.com. Family owned and operated since 1946. What you see is what you pay, and you save an additional 10% when you enter promo code EOP10. Head over to Sherry's today, and what are you waiting for? My final rant of the night is going to be on your hockey team. The Philadelphia Flyers are entering year 2 of the Danny B rebuild, and there's so much positivity floating around this team that John Tortorella has had to go on record in front of the media and say, I'm not going to let you talk to him every day. I'm not going to let you turn this into the Michkov show. Of course, referring to the Flyer prospect, hot rookie, Matt V. Michkov, when addressed about the availability of Michkov or the what it's been like to coach him, all that nonsense the media is saying, drooling over him, Tortorella made it very clear that he was not going to let Michkov become a circus, and he was not going to provide availability for Michkov to the media every day. So Tortorella already kind of laying down the law when it comes to their new superstar player. But the trains are moving. The Flyers are playing in Montreal tonight. I think it's preseason game 2. I know they played yesterday, but I wonder if they played earlier in the week, like on Friday. But I know they played yesterday. Thank you, Matty B, for giving me a sanctuary from the tyranny of the. That's what it's. This is Sanctuary Island. K1, you are more than welcome here. You're more than welcome here to take refuge from the tyranny of the homers, because this island or this place is open to all. But freedom will reign here. The people will reign here, not the tyrants, not the homers. So make sure you pass that word on. But yeah, but the Flyers are more than into the developmental process of starting the season. Rookie camp has come and gone. Rookie games have come and gone. Training camp, the bag skate, the rope skate, whatever you call it, has come and gone. Training camp is still kind of happening as well as preseason, but I don't think it's more of a training camp atmosphere more than just a daily practice, kind of a hyper-extended practice schedule. I don't really know what training camp in hockey is. I mean, there's only so much you can do. But they are now into the preseason, and the next step, of course, will be the regular season here on mid-October. And October 12th, the Flyers will head out to Western Canada. That's right, folks. For you hockey heads out there who have waited since April for the Flyers to return, you're going to get a Western Canadian trip and a trip to Seattle all wrapped into the same opening road trip. Yep, we're going to start out with a 10 o'clock, a 10 o'clock, and a 10 o'clock start time, and a 10 o'clock for the first 4 games of the year as they go to Vancouver, Calgary, Edmonton, Seattle. Yep, that is their first 4 games of the season, a Western Canadian road trip. The road trip that's typically saved for New Year's Eve is happening in mid-October. But we will have it here for you on the Clear the Ice program, new and improved for 2024-25. Frankie James and Coach Bex, who have joined the network to provide some coverage in the line of hockey for all you purists out there who love hockey to the bone. They host a show called Chirping Pucks. I think it's on tonight at like 8 o'clock. I'm pretty sure it is. I haven't heard anything more about it, but I could have sworn they said they were doing it tonight. But they will also be part of the Clear the Ice program this season. And again, we do Clear the Ice in tandem. There's always 2 people doing Clear the Ice. So there'll be more opportunities for you to see me interact with them, Pat Bernard interact with them, Al, Mike, and Sal. Sal will be joining Clear the Ice this year as well. So we're bringing him over from the Fightins final. So we're looking forward to all that. But as we move into the second year of the rebuild, what is the expectation of this team? And that seems to be the big thing out there is, they were a better than expected version of them last year, a playoff contender, a playoff placeholder for 3/4 of the season, 3/4 plus of the season. Is it playoffs or what? I mean, I'm having a hard time placing an expectation level on this team because I haven't seen significant enough amount of change or betterment done. Michkov is going to be potentially a very good piece, but is it really for this year or is it for 5 years from now? Obviously, it's for 5 years from now. We have other questions, though, with this team that are holdovers from last year. Still don't have a true number 1 centerman. We drafted Jet Lachenko. He will not be ready feasibly for 3 years, maybe 2. He seems to be really doing well in camp. He's impressing Tortorella with his speed. He's impressing Tortorella with his durability. But his youth is 17, 18 years old, and his experience level need to come up a little bit more in order for him to be a legitimate NHLer, in my opinion. So we don't have a true number 1 centerman, and we don't have a true number 1 goaltender, of course, with the Carter Hart stuff. Sam Ersson and Ivan Fedotov will potentially be battling for starting time this season. Now, for those of you who've been following this story about Alexei Kovasov, which is the Flyers' import from Russia, who has said, "I'm not playing here anymore." This is a real interesting one. Right on the heels of the Cutter Gauthier stuff last year, of "I don't want to be here, trade me," we have another situation. And I'll spin you up to speed on this, right? So Alexei Kovasov is I think, 2nd-round draft pick of the Flyers in 23, 22-ish, or 21, in that area. Had an amazing season. I was saying amazing, but a better than average season in the KHL last year. The Flyers last September signed him to his entry-level contract, which I thought at the time was kind of odd because there was no need to sign him back in September to his ELC with Carter Hart, right? And we had Ersson, and we had a couple of Fedotov. We had a couple other goalies that were kind of about little further along in their progression. But they went out and they signed him to his ELC. But then they loaned him back to the KHL. So they said, okay, well, you're our property, but we're going to let you go back to the KHL this year and play. Why would they do that? Right? Why would you do that to a prospect? Why would you put their contract ticking clock on and not have them immediately play for the team? And I did some thinking, and I came up with this. I think last year at this time, there was more information in the inner circle about Carter Hart's situation. I think there was more of an impending result of what was going to happen and what eventually did happen to Carter Hart being arrested and charged with sexual assault. It was being downplayed. Of course it was being downplayed because no one's going to talk about that stuff. It's not fair to anybody involved to talk about it. But I think there was more of an expectation from the Flyers that something was going to happen at some point last season, which of course it did. Which of course they tried to all season long. Oh, we only know as much as you do. I think that's a bunch of hooey, right? So I think they signed him with the knowledge thinking that, we're probably going to need him at some point this season. So they signed him. They sent him back to Sochi. Now, not Sochi, but to KHL. I don't know what promises were made to him. I don't know what the Flyers said to him about this whole situation. Listen, we're going to send you back to Russia, and then we'll bring you back at the end of the season when the KHL is over so you can play here. I don't know what any of that conversation was had, but the Flyers eventually did bring him back at the end of the KHL season, which was about was it mid-March-ish time frame? And they directly assigned him to Lehigh Valley, which, of course, I don't know how he took that. Did he think that he was going right to the Flyers? The NHL he felt lied to? I don't know. But he was sent to the Phantoms, never got to the Flyers, played a couple playoff games, got some exposure, had about a 3.03 goals against average in like 6 games. Nothing spectacular, but nothing that says he wasn't ready for the stage of the AHL. And then but then there were some reports that he was very kind of to himself. He didn't really necessarily want to assimilate with the team. He didn't want to get involved in things. And people started to attribute that to homesickness, that he missed Russia. I don't know, man. I think there's something more to that. Then at the end of the season, he leaves and leaves it wide open whether or not he's going to come back. And here we come. We get to developmental camp. He's a no-show. We get to rookie camp. He's a no-show. Then the Flyers finally made the announcement that he's not coming back, that he's staying in Russia and not coming back to the Flyers. Now, he's under contract with the Philadelphia Flyers. With that being said, he cannot play professionally for anybody else while under contract. Now, I'm sure if he goes and decides to go play for Russia or somebody else, the Flyers will sue him. I don't know. We're not quite at that point. But what is this situation? Did the Flyers lie to Alexei Kovasov? Did they tell him that, we have higher expectations for you, or we're going to put you in as a starter, and then they change their tune? Or is this a case of an entitled Russian hockey player taking his ball and going home like a little child because he didn't start immediately in the NHL? So with all the positive vibes around the Flyers and what Danny B and Keith Jones have done with this organization over the last year, there are some negatives. The Cutter Gauthier, I don't want to play here. And now this. It's stuff that you really got to kind of keep your eye on, because it's not all rainbows and sunshine, as Big Al will try to make you think it is. It's not. So you have to try to keep your eye on things like that. But Kovasov's back in Russia, not playing for anybody and under contract with the Flyers, and is a no-show. Now, I know in the NBA, they fine you daily for not coming in. I don't know what the situation is in the NHL. I don't think they can for an ELC. Maybe for a veteran they could, but not for an ELC. But you have that. Of course, you don't have a true number one centerman. It's a bunch of role players, right? And then you got Michkov. The Flyers did sign Travis Konechny long-term, expecting, I guess, maybe a Michkov-Konechny type situation going on here. And that's going to be a great story to watch as we get closer to the regular season. Where does Michkov end up? Remember, he's by position a right winger, but he's a left-handed shot. So I don't like that. I've never liked that. I know forwards are supposed to play anywhere on the line that they're told to play, with maybe the exception of center, because center is a little bit more of a skilled position when it comes to face-offs and quarterbacking and all that, especially down low. I get that. But I know forwards are supposed to be diversified. It doesn't matter if you're a left-handed shot. You should be able to play the right side or the left side and vice versa. I get that. But where does Michkov play? And what's the best mentor for him? Is it the Sean Couturier, who's the older captain and centerman? I'm going to get to Couturier here in a second. Is it him that is the proper mentor for the younger Michkov? Or is it Morgan Frost, who's more of an explosive offensive distributor, playmaker type of centerman? Does Michkov benefit more with playing with Morgan Frost for the benefit of the team than he does for Sean Couturier, for more of a mentorship and a whatever, type of going forward type move? I mean, what would be better for everybody involved? And those line combinations will work itself out as we move deeper into the camp. Now, one thing to keep an eye on as well is the development of the other players, and that's what's I feel is happening too, is everyone's getting lost in this Michkov stuff. That the team, and these are mostly young guys. I get being excited for Michkov, and he's probably the biggest touted player that's arrived in this town since Eric Lindros, and that's a whole other messed up situation of why it's taken 30 years to get another prospect like that. But it's important that you don't lose the other team in this, because there's other, like, I've been watching a lot of these camp clips, and all the questions are, how's it like playing with Michkov? Well, what do you think of Michkov? Listen, I'm a grown-ass man. I'm not going to gush over another grown-ass man. You know what I mean? Ask me about my game. Ask me about what I'm doing. Ask me about the team progression. I get it. I get it what Michkov is, and I understand all that, but come on. I have knee pads for the ice, not off the ice. You know what I mean? So, I have. Hopefully that doesn't happen. Another player on this team that's really important to me is Tyson Forrester. I had Jim Jackson on the show about a month or so ago, and me and Jim kind of went around and around a little bit about Tyson Forrester. And I didn't think Forrester had a good season last year. Honestly didn't. And Jim really got offended by that. And I was like, why are you so offended? He's like, well, Forrester had, probably the best step forward season overall of any player on this team did. And I'm like, well, please explain. And he said, well, because Forrester turned into that forward that's not afraid to go into the corners, into the boards, muck and grind his way, and chase pucks. And I'm thinking, and then he also said that he did everything that Tortorella wanted him to do. That's great, and that's part of your progression. But if you remember, coming out of camp last year, Forster was the big story. His offensive or his step forwards that he made to entrench himself onto this team last year out of camp were one of the biggest stories I had last year for the Flyers. And I think productively, offensively, he just wasn't enough for me based on the buzz about him coming out of camp. I didn't think it was enough. And so when I said that I believe Forrester as a third line centerman or a third line forward, he's not a center, but a third line guy or potentially a fourth line guy, it's not what I envisioned Forrester to be. Jim says, well, he's not going to play on the third or fourth line. I'm like, well, Jim, yeah, he has. Matter of fact, so I went and did some numbers, right? Over the last 10 games of the season last year, Forrester played on the first line 3 times, the second line 3 times, third line 3 times, and he did play on the fourth line once. So he was all over the place. But that's a problem to me. And that seems to be a mantra of this young team. And again, I get why. Tortorella is still figuring things out. But I don't necessarily want to see that this year. I need to see line 1, line 2, line 3, line 4. I get there's in-game line adjustments throughout a lot of games. Stuff's not working. You try to mix things up. Power play ain't friggin' working, which it hasn't in 3 years. You try to mix some things up. Then you make some changes long-term as you go forward. But consistently, the Flyers it was a crapshoot of who was going on what line, on what night, on what day. It was terrible. And that to me is because we don't know or Tortorella doesn't know what this team is yet. And he's trying to work different combinations to try to get something. I want to see more stability on the line combinations because, yes, Tyson Forrester provided a spark plug. He was that mucker grinder guy. He was that typical third line guy. And you know what? In this day and age, a fourth line guy. We didn't draft him in the first round to be a third line guy. I'm thinking Tyson Forrester as a solid number 2 line guy who can go up on the first line from time to time. And I want to see more of those defined roles from this team in 24-25 through the maturation process. Enough of this line bouncing. I get it. It's part of the game, especially in-game adjustments. You do those, but not every night. Not every night, this guy's here, this guy's there, this guy's back here, over here. There's got to be a little bit more consistency, and I would hope that Tortorella has that consistency heading into year 3. And I'm going to wrap up my Flyers point with Sean Couturier, and I'm going to wrap it up with John Tortorella. It's 2 of them. It seemed to be oil and water, powder keg getting ready to explode, because I honestly believe, I've said this last year when it happened when Couturier was benched, there's so many more expectations on a captain on a hockey team than there are for just on-ice offensive production. There's so much going on behind the scenes that captains do for your team. And when Tortorella benched Couturier, it was all about, well, it's the offense. He's not scoring and all that. I disagree. I don't think that was the reason he was benched. Couturier was coming back from missing 2 seasons. What the hell did Tortorella expect him to do? A 50-goal season? I think there was more going on than the on-ice stuff with Sean Couturier. And I don't know what it is, and I'm speculating. Maybe it was a leadership problem. Maybe it was friction between him and the coach. I don't think it was as cut and dry as offensive in production. I don't. And the benching of Couturier might have been a who's you-know-what is bigger contest between the two of them. And unfortunately, Sean Couturier has the players. The players support the captain a lot more than they do the coach. It's a whole tribal little thing going on inside the hockey locker room. It's hard for me to explain it unless you've been in there. But I'm concerned that benching was the first nail in John Tortorella's coffin. And what are the byproducts of that benching heading into this season in terms of John Tortorella and this team and this locker room another year in? And we already know Tortorella has a shelf life. So that's another thing I'm going to be watching out for is the relationship between Couturier and Tortorella and how it spills over to the rest of the team and what the rest of the team is doing with that. So I got goaltending. I got Michkov. I got more stable line combinations. And I got Tortorella and Couturier as we head into year 2 of the rebuild. And again, we're going to get really more in depth with the Flyers heading into the season. So make sure you're tuned in to Clear the Ice every night or every postgame. Walter says it's 5-0. Did we already do that, Walter? Yeah, we already did that. Walter says this. Oh, no. Kovasov is from Belarus. I didn't say from. He plays in Russia. I didn't say he's from. I didn't mention his country of origin. I said he was playing in Russia. Schwarber grounds a double play, but Marsh scores 6-0 now, Walter. Good guy. That's what I'm talking about. Man, why am I messing this up? Great defensive plays by Bohm, Casti, and Rojas. Not swinging at junk either. Big improvement. There you go. Again, Susan, is this a byproduct of them learning or is this them playing the Cubs? We'll wait and see. But there you have it. Phillies are up 6-0. So make sure as soon as the Phillies game is over, you're back here on EOP for the Fightings final. Sal, just got you tonight. Maybe there's a little unit measuring going on between you and Al too. Listen, don't use the word unit and little around me. All right. No, come on. Al's a good guy. Al's my friend. But he's got to be reeled in every now and again. Right. He doesn't control the way people think. Sorry about that. He doesn't control the way people think. But yeah, Al's a good guy. All right, we had a great show. We went on a little bit of a rant about the Eagles. We went on a little bit of a rant about the Phillies and about Big Al and about the Flyers. And here we are back at square one. Remember all the great things. I know I'm missing about, 18,000 sponsors here? Who am I missing? Philly Sports Trips don't have their graphic, but you guys already know what Philly Sports Trips has to offer. Their next trip is down to Tampa. I think it's sold out. That's next week. And then don't forget the big one everyone's looking at is the EOP bus trip up to MetLife Stadium for the Giants game. Members of the EOP staff and family will be on that bus heading up to New York's and the Giants Stadium. I will not be on that trip, but make sure you head over to the Philly Sports Trips and get on that thing so you can join in the reveille and watch these guys get drunk, which is going to be fun. And but head over to Philly Sports Trips for all your road tripping needs as a Philadelphia sports fan. Been a pleasure and an honor to be with you tonight. Good show. Appreciate all the feedback, all the back and forth. Big week in Philadelphia sports, as it is every week. We're getting closer to that magical time of October. I got my red pixie dust coming out here for October, but stay tuned. It's getting hot and heavy. Well, we have it all for you, and I'll see you guys next week. Until we talk again, what do they say? Oh, yes, that's right. That is the news, and I'm out of here.